The galaxy was never quiet, but on this day it felt as if something had stolen the voice of the stars. Entire networks of trade signals and long-range communications began to flicker and die. Ships that once carried cargo between worlds were vanishing. Without any call for help, it began slowly. One system reporting silence, then two, then entire clusters of colonies unable to speak to their neighbors. And in that silence, fear spread faster than light. Alien governments sent scouts and patrols into the void, but none returned. Captains boasted of their fleets, their weapons, their technology that had stood for thousands of years, yet their signals always ended the same, with static and then nothing. The galaxy began to whisper of an approaching shadow, something vast, something no one had ever seen before. Then an observatory on the edge of the Valari Empire caught sight of it. At first they thought it was an asteroid, a drifting moon broken loose from some system. But when they adjusted the lenses, they saw the shape, long sharp edges, impossible angles, heat signatures of engines far more powerful than anything they knew, and a hull of dark alloy that seemed to drink in the light. It was not a rock, it was not nature. It was built. The first report described it simply: an unknown vessel entering the stars, larger than a city, silent and alone. The Valari tried to contact it, no reply. They tried to scan it. Their instruments burned out from the energy field that surrounded the craft, and when the report reached the great halls of the Valari Council, the first word spoken was fear, for this vessel was not alien to them. It was new, but it was familiar. It carried the markings of a young species, thought to be trapped on a single planet Earth. Humanity. The name alone meant little to the ancient races of the galaxy. Most considered humans primitive, noisy, dangerous, only to themselves. The galaxy had long dismissed Earth as a place of endless wars and endless mistakes, a species too divided to ever reach the stars. Yet here it was a ship, a warship, not a fragile scout, not a hopeful explorer, but a weapon forged by hands the galaxy thought weak. The ship moved slowly through the darkness, engines burning bright but steady, not rushing, not. Hiding its path was direct like a predator that has no need for stealth. One alien observer whispered that it moved like a storm, deliberate, unstoppable, and cold. The Council of the Valari met in haste, their voices sharp with panic. Some demanded the destruction of the craft before it reached their space. Others argued to wait to learn what the humans wanted, but all agreed on one thing. This ship was not built for peace. The hull bristled with cannon ports, launch bays and long-range rail. Weapons. The heat signatures alone told of reactors powerful enough to burn a planet. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, rumors spread in marketplaces and spaceports. Whispers grew into stories, and stories grew into terror. Some said the humans had built a ship the size of a moon to conquer the stars. Others claimed it was not a ship at all, but a living weapon born from Earth itself, a creature of metal and rage. Children in alien homes whispered at night of the warship that came from the shadows, and adults shushed them, though their own hands shook. The truth was simpler and darker. The warship was humanity's answer to centuries of fear. Earth had watched the stars and seen what was out there. Ancient empires that enslaved weaker races, predators that consumed entire systems, tyrants who demanded tribute from those too weak to resist humanity, had looked up at the galaxy and chosen not to beg for mercy, but to build something terrible, something that would make the stars tremble. On the third week of its journey, the warship crossed into the neutral zone between the Valari and the Threx Dominion. There, the First Fleet moved to intercept a patrol of 7 ships, advanced technology weapons of plasma and shields forged in 1,000 wars. They broadcast a signal identifying themselves and demanding the warship halt. Still, the ship said nothing. Still, it drifted forward like a giant blade moving through darkness. The patrol captain laughed. He had faced rebels, pirates, and machines. He believed no primitive human craft could stand against him. He gave the order to fire 7 ships, lit the void with blazing plasma streams and brilliant beams of energy. The warship took every strike. Without flinching, the light rippled across its armor like rain on stone, and then it answered. The sound of the first human weapon was silence, followed by the sudden erasure of one patrol ship. No explosion, no debris, just a flash, and then nothing. The captain screamed orders, but before his second command could leave his lips, 2 more ships were erased. The remaining 4 scattered, panic breaking their formation. Each of them fired wildly, desperate to land a blow. But their weapons struck only emptiness. The warship advanced engines glowing. Brighter weapons still locked, cold, precise, no rage, only function. One final shot tore through the captain's vessel, splitting it in half. In perfect silence, the galaxy's first true witness to Earth's warship died before he could even scream. News spread faster than ever before. Merchants carried the tale even faster than official channels. The story was retold in every tongue. The humans had a weapon beyond comprehension. Entire fleets were erased in seconds. No negotiation, no mercy. Every empire listened with growing horror. Back on Earth, the warship's creators watched in silence. They had expected resistance. They had expected fear. But the speed of it, the way the galaxy bent under the weight of rumor, surprised even them. Yet they did not slow their mission. The warship was built for one purpose, to show the galaxy that humanity was not prey. Not a colony waiting to be conquered, but a force, a power that could not be ignored. In the great halls of alien rulers, voices clashed. Louder than storms. Should they attack with their full strength now, before the humans gained allies? Or should they wait and risk the humans striking first? A Threx general pounded his fist on a table, declaring that humans must be crushed before. They spread, but a soft-spoken diplomat reminded them of the patrol fleet, erased in less than a heartbeat. Fear silenced anger. The warship did not stop. It did not speak. It moved through the stars with patience. Every world it passed sent fleets to watch, but none dared to attack. The memory of the erased patrol was enough. Each empire told itself they were waiting for more information, but in truth, they were waiting for someone else to make the first move. No one wanted to be the next to vanish. The galaxy had always been full of dangers, pirates, rebellions, ancient weapons forgotten on dead worlds. But this was different. This was new. This was a predator born from a species no one had believed in, a warship that carried not only weapons but a message. Even in its silence it spoke one truth. Humanity had entered the stars, and the galaxy trembled in fear. The patrol fleet was gone, and the story of its destruction spread like fire across the galaxy. Entire star systems whispered the name of Earth. Though few had ever seen it before, no one had believed such a small young world could build a weapon that could erase ships in seconds, and yet the truth was undeniable. Every government, every empire was shaken. The Valari blamed the Threx blamed the merchants blamed fate, but all of them feared the humans. The warship itself moved onward without a word. Its engines burned steady, its path straight. It neither chased nor hid. It did not loot or destroy stations. It simply moved forward, deeper into the stars, like a tide that could not be turned. The silence was worse than any threat, because no one knew what it wanted. In the hidden council chambers of the Dominion, a group of leaders gathered to discuss the danger. The room was thick with heat. From the arguments, some generals slammed fists and demanded an immediate attack. Others whispered caution. The image of 7 ships erased in moments weighed on every thought. The Threx supreme warlord sat silent until the voices fell quiet. Then he spoke in his deep growl. The humans must be tested again. He ordered a scout vessel, small and fast, to intercept the human ship and record every detail. The scout captain obeyed, though his hands shook as he watched the dreadnought appear through his viewing screen. The vessel filled the display from end to end, its black hull shimmered against the stars. No lights, no colors, no signs of life, only metal and silence. The captain transmitted greetings in every known language. No response he hailed again. Nothing he sent warnings, threats, even pleas, still silence. The scout circled closer, its sensors drank in the size of the engines, the curve of the weapons, the strange black material that seemed alive when the captain attempted to scan deeper. His instruments sparked and died. His ship's systems failed one by one, as if the warship simply swallowed their power. Fear clutched his chest. He tried to flee, but before he could ignite his drives, a single beam of pale light brushed across his hull. The scout shuddered and went still. The power drained away. The ship was not destroyed, but frozen like prey held in the claws of a predator. Then for the first time, the warship spoke. A voice filled the scout's cabin, calm and cold. Return home. It said, "Tell them to leave us alone." The voice was human, but layered with machine tones that made it sound less like speech and more like judgment. Then the ship released the scout engines, reignited on their own. The scout captain fled at full speed, never looking back. When his report reached the Dominion, his words caused panic. The humans had not only erased a fleet, they had spared one ship and sent a message. Earth did not speak in diplomacy. It spoke in threats spoken with calm certainty. If the humans said, "Leave us alone," what would they do if the galaxy refused? Meanwhile, across distant sectors, traders told stories of the human ship. They described it as a shadow bigger than cities, a vessel that glowed like fire. Some swore it could erase a planet with a single strike. Others said it carried no crew, only machines that followed the orders of dead human leaders. Every story grew larger. Every story fueled the same feeling. Fear. The Valari Empire chose to act. They believed the Threx would move against the humans soon, and they did not want to be left behind. They assembled a fleet of 20 ships equipped with the best weapons their empire could forge. Sleek, silver hulls, engines bright with power shields that could withstand suns. Their admirals promised victory. They broadcast a declaration across the stars. Humanity must halt or be destroyed. The humans did not answer. The warship moved forward as if it had not heard the Valari fleet advanced. They formed a wall across the path of the dreadnought engines. Blazing weapons charged the admiral of the Valari. Spoke one final warning: "Halt, or we will fire." Silence. The admiral gave the order. The stars lit with the fury of 20 warships. Plasma bolts streaked across the void. Missiles left trails of fire. Beams of concentrated light struck the black armor. Again and again the void shook with power. The Valari fleet roared with pride, thinking the humans were at last outmatched. But when the light cleared, the dreadnought still moved forward, unbroken, its armor glowing faintly but undamaged. The Valari admiral hesitated, then gave the command to retreat too late. The dreadnought's weapons spoke. Beams of dark energy lanced through the fleet, cutting ships apart with surgical precision. 5 ships gone in seconds. 3 more crippled the survivors. Scattered, screaming orders. The warship fired again and again, each strike perfect, each strike final. The Valari were not fighting an enemy. They were being executed in less than 5 minutes. 17 ships were gone. The last 3 fled, engines burning. The dreadnought did not pursue. It simply turned its guns away and continued forward. The path cleared once more. News of the slaughter spread with even greater speed than before. Entire sectors fell into silence. Stations locked their gates. Merchants cancelled routes. Some spoke of fleeing entire systems to avoid the path of the human ship. Panic spread across the galaxy, stronger than any fleet could fight. In the high chambers of the Council of Worlds, representatives of dozens of species gathered. No one had ever seen them united before. They argued, shouted, screamed, but all their words circled the same point. What was humanity planning? Some said invasion, others said revenge. Still, others believed it was only a test, a single ship sent to sea. If the galaxy was weak enough to conquer, But one thing every council member agreed upon was that fear was now their shadow. No one trusted their neighbors. No one trusted their allies. Entire coalitions cracked as worlds accused one another of hiding. Knowledge about Earth, some spoke of surrender before a war even began. Others swore to strike with all their power and wipe humanity out before it spread further. And still the dreadnought moved. On board the human ship, the crew spoke little. They had been chosen for silence, discipline, patience. They listened to reports from Earth. They watched the signals of fear spread. They did not celebrate, they only followed their mission. Humanity had been silent too long, mocked too long, ignored too long. Now the galaxy would listen. For centuries, humans had feared invasion from the stars. Every telescope pointed upward carried not only wonder, but dread. They had built weapons in secret, prepared defenses, and finally forged a vessel that could travel farther than ever before, carrying enough fire to burn any enemy. It found it was not built for conquest, it was built for survival, but in its silence, in its terrible power, it became something more to the galaxy. A monster. The second encounter with the Valari proved what the galaxy feared. Earth's warship could not only erase small fleets, it could tear apart the best ships of an ancient empire. The whispers of this truth spread until even the youngest races knew to fear humanity. The dreadnought passed into another sector, its engines never slowing, its weapons silent but ready. Entire civilizations watched its approach, trembling. Each ruler asked the same question: should they try to stop it or let it pass? None had an answer. Every star system looked to their fleets and realized they were weak against this single ship. And so the galaxy entered a new age, an age of silence, broken only by the slow, steady march of a single human warship drifting forward through the stars. And behind it spread a wave of fear that no weapon could stop. Whispers traveled faster than light. Merchants carried them on half-finished routes. Soldiers repeated them in the mess halls. Children spoke them as bedtime stories. The humans are coming. The humans have a warship. The humans destroyed fleets, entire civilizations, felt the weight of those words, and even the most powerful empires found their hands shaking. In the markets of the Valari, survivors from the broken fleet tried to explain what they had seen. Some described beams of darkness that erased matter. Some swore they had heard a voice inside their heads, a warning to flee. Others claimed the warship was not crewed at all, but controlled by a single mind, a machine fused with human thought. The stories twisted, grew and spread, until the line between truth and fear was gone, and fear became stronger. The galaxy had seen many weapons across its long history. Ancient empires had forged machines that cracked worlds. Others had burned systems in wars long forgotten. But those weapons were myths or ruins, buried under the sands of dead planets. This warship was real, alive, present, moving and unstoppable. No myth, but a shadow that spread through every system it passed. In the halls of the Council of Worlds, rulers and envoys gathered, their faces strained, their voices sharp. Some demanded action to unite every empire into one grand force, to erase humanity before it spread. Others argued to wait and learn why the humans had sent their ship. Silence ruled the chamber, until a frail ambassador spoke the words everyone feared. Perhaps the humans were not asking questions. Perhaps the humans were giving answers. The silence in the room grew heavy. Meanwhile, the dreadnought moved its course, never swerving its engines, burning bright and steady. No signals, no messages, no gestures of peace or war. Only movement steady and sure, like a tide that could not be stopped. Alien probes attempted to follow, but their signals always died. When they drew close, those that survived sent back only fragments, images of black hulls, bristling with weapons engines that glowed brighter than suns, and a silence so deep it felt alive. The Threk's dominion sent spies into human space, desperate to understand the origin of this weapon. What they found shocked them. Earth was scarred, a world battered by centuries of conflict, yet united now in one Purpose, every factory, every forge, every laboratory worked toward one project: survival. Their spies saw other ships, smaller but still armed, moving in orbit like guards around a sleeping beast. Earth was not weak, it was not divided, it was focused, but this knowledge only deepened the fear, for if humanity could build one dreadnought, then it could build more. How many waited behind the shadows of their world? How many were already on the move? In the city of Luthen Prime, children huddled close as the power grid flickered. Rumors spread that the human warship had entered the sector. Families locked themselves in homes. Shopkeepers closed their doors. Fleets scrambled into position. The warship was still weeks away, but already its presence was felt. The very idea of its approach broke daily life. Every hour that passed was filled with the question, will it come here? Will it stop? When the first signals showed it crossing the edge of the sector, panic erupted. Refugees poured into transport. Ships' entire stations abandoned their posts, fleeing into the void. The local rulers ordered calm. They promised their fleets would protect their people. But no one believed them. Everyone remembered the Valari fleet. Everyone remembered the patrol. Erased in moments, fleets meant nothing now. The warship passed a mining colony, a cluster of stations orbiting a lonely star. The miners froze, watching as the shadow filled their view screens. No weapons were fired, no signals sent. The warship simply moved past the miners, wept in silence, some with relief, some with terror, for they had seen the face of death and lived, yet not all were content to sit in fear. A coalition of smaller empires met in secret deep underground, away from the council halls. They spoke of strategy, of desperate weapons hidden for ages, weapons banned by treaty, weapons so dangerous they had been locked away to never be used again. They argued if humanity's dreadnought could not be stopped by conventional fleets, then perhaps these forgotten devices might stand a chance. But even among them, fear gnawed at their courage. None wanted to be the first to test such a theory. Back aboard the human warship, the crew worked in silence. They followed orders. They ran checks on weapons, engines, shields. No one questioned the mission. No one asked what would happen if the galaxy struck back. Their orders were clear: move forward, show strength, and never break. The galaxy had to understand humanity was not prey. Humanity was not to be hunted or enslaved. Humanity was dangerous. Among the crew, one young officer sat staring at the stars. She whispered to herself, wondering if her family back on Earth could feel the fear spreading across the galaxy. She thought of the stories told in her childhood of alien invaders, of dark skies filled with fire. She realized with a chill that those stories were now being told in alien homes. But this time humanity was the monster in the dark. The warship crossed deeper into populated regions. Sensors from dozens of worlds tracked its every movement. Alien leaders argued over what to do: strike or wait. Fear gnawed at every council chamber. Generals drew battle plans only to tear them apart. Diplomats wrote messages of peace only to burn them. The silence of the warship was a weight no one could lift. At last one empire chose to act. The Krill Ascendancy sent 10 ships equipped with experimental weapons beams designed to pierce shields, missiles that carried miniature black holes. They believed themselves ready. They set their trap in a dense nebula, hiding their ships until the warship passed. Then they attacked the void, lit with fury. Beams cut through dust. Missiles streaked through clouds. The warship vanished into fire. The Krill cheered, thinking themselves victorious. But the fire cleared, and the dreadnought remained untouched. Its weapons turned once more. Beams of darkness lanced through the nebula, cutting ships in half. Explosions tore across the clouds. The Krill fleet died screaming. No one survived. The nebula itself burned, lit by the fury of weapons beyond understanding. The dreadnought moved on, engines steady as if nothing had happened. The story of the Krill spread like blood in water. Empires that once dreamed of resistance abandoned the thought. Others trembled in silence. The galaxy had tested humanity 3 times, and 3 times it had failed. Fleets erased nations, humbled Nothing could stop the warship. Nothing could even slow it. In the days that followed, entire sectors turned dark, stations powered down their signals, planets ceased transmitting in the hope that the warship would pass them by. But the dreadnought did not hunt. It did not search. It did not fire unless attacked it. Simply moved forward, steady, silent, sure. And that silence was worse than any fire. The whispers grew into prophecy. Alien priests claimed the humans were the punishment of the stars. A shadow born to humble the proud others claimed the humans were chosen to rule. And that resistance was sin. Entire religions rose overnight around the dreadnought, worshipping it as a god of war. But in truth it was only a ship built by desperate hands, forged from centuries of fear, now returned to the galaxy. As fear itself, and as it moved deeper still, the question that haunted every mind was not if it would strike, but when and why. The galaxy trembled and waited, and humanity's silence was the loudest sound of all. Would you like me to carry this exact suspense style into episode 4 next, where the galaxy finally unites a massive fleet to test humanity in a colossal battle? The galaxy had reached its breaking point. Whispers and rumors were no longer enough. The fear of humanity's warship had grown. Too heavy to bear, worlds that had never spoken to one another now sent secret messages across forbidden channels. Rulers who hated each other now sat at the same table, their voices shaking as they admitted the truth. If they did not unite, they would all fall, from the frozen worlds of the Valari to the burning suns of the Threx dominion. Fleets began to move. War factories poured out weapons. Shipyards burned through the night to finish new hulls. The greatest gathering of war power in 10,000 years was prepared, a coalition of hundreds of species, their ships different in shape and color, their weapons forged in different traditions, but all pointed at one enemy, the dreadnought of Earth. The plan was simple. A trap the warship had. No allies, no scouts, no escorts. It traveled in silence and straight lines, like a blade cutting through the stars. The coalition would place their fleet along its path in the Ares Rift, a stretch of empty space where the dreadnought would have no choice but to pass. The fleet would encircle it, close off every escape, and unleash every weapon at once. Commanders argued over tactics. Some demanded a swift, overwhelming strike. Others whispered caution, reminding them of the fleets already destroyed. In seconds, in the end, fear forced them to agree they would throw everything they had at once. More than 500 ships of war cruisers, battleships, carriers, each one carrying weapons designed to crack planets and burn moons, all waiting in silence for the human ship to arrive. The day came. The rift was quiet, a void between stars, but filled now with the largest armada in history. Ships floated in perfect formation, lights burning like constellations across the dark. Admirals sat in their chairs, sweat dripping down their necks. Crews whispered prayers as they waited. Then a signal the dreadnought had entered the rift at. First, it was only a shadow, a blip on sensors. Then it appeared vast and dark, filling the displays of every ship. Its armor shimmered with the faint light of distant stars. Its engines burned steady, calm, unhurried. The dreadnought did not change its course. It did not slow or speed. It simply advanced, as if the fleet of 500 ships meant nothing. The order was given. Open channels hailed the vessel once more. Demands were sent in every tongue. Halt or be destroyed, turn back or be erased. But the dreadnought said nothing. Its silence pressed into every heart. The admirals clenched their fists. The order was given. Prepare to fire. The fleet shifted into full formation, ships moving like a wall, closing around the human vessel. Hundreds of weapons powered up. The void glowed with energy. The dreadnought kept moving closer, closer, until its shadow filled the center of the trap. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. The galaxy erupted. Beams of plasma brighter than suns lanced out rail cannons, fired slugs the size of towers. Missiles screamed across the dark. Explosions bloomed around the dreadnought. The void shook with the fury of 1,000 weapons. The blaze of destruction was so bright that sensors' overloaded screens turned white. Crews shielded their eyes. No ship in history could survive such fire. For a moment the coalition cheered. The admirals stood proud. The dreadnought was hidden inside a storm of fire. It had to be gone, but then the light faded, the storm cleared, and the shadow remained. The dreadnought was still there, silent and whole. Its armor glowed faintly with heat, but no cracks, no breaches, no smoke. Its engines still burned steady. It had endured the fury of 500 ships and kept moving forward as if nothing had touched it. The cheering turned to silence. Crews stared in disbelief. Admirals screamed orders. Fire again! Fire everything, every weapon launched again. The void filled with fire missiles, beams, torpedoes, entire magazines emptied into the human ship. Explosions erupted brighter than before, but when the light cleared, the dreadnought was still. There moving forward, unstoppable. Then it answered. Its weapons came alive in silence. Beams of darkness lanced outward, cutting through ships. With perfect precision, one beam tore a battleship in half, another erased a carrier in a single flash. Each strike was clean, swift, final. No wasted fire, no wild shots, every target chosen, every target destroyed. Panic swept the fleet formations, broke. Captains screamed for retreat. Admirals shouted for order, but nothing held. The dreadnought fired again and again, each strike erasing another. Ship the void turned into a graveyard, ships burning, spinning, shattered crews, crying out for help that never came. The dreadnought advanced through the chaos. Calm, silent, precise. It was not a battle. It was an execution. Some ships tried to ram the dreadnought, hoping to damage it with their sacrifice. But everyone was destroyed before it could reach the hull. Others fled at full speed, engines burning. But the dreadnought's weapons reached them even as they ran. No escape, no mercy. Within minutes, the Grand Fleet was broken, hundreds of ships reduced to wreckage bodies, scattered across the void, fire and debris drifting like dead stars. The admirals who survived sat frozen in their chairs, unable to speak, watching the impossible unfold. The greatest fleet ever assembled, erased by a single ship. At last the dreadnought fell silent again, its weapons powered down, its engines burned steady. It did not chase the survivors. It did not finish them. It simply moved forward through the wreckage of the greatest armada in history, leaving silence in its wake. The survivors carried the story back to their worlds. The humans could not be stopped. They could not be fought. They could not even be slowed. Entire empires fell into despair. Governments collapsed under the weight of fear. Some worlds surrendered before humanity had even spoken, raising flags of white light into their skies, begging for mercy from an enemy that had never asked for it. In the chambers of the Council of Worlds, chaos ruled. Leaders shouted, screamed, wept. Some demanded surrender to Earth. Others called for darker weapons, hidden in vaults, weapons forbidden by every treaty the galaxy had ever signed. Desperation consumed them. Trust crumbled, alliances shattered. Every ruler believed their neighbor might betray them to save themselves. The galaxy itself began to tear apart. And still the dreadnought moved forward, engines, steady weapons, silent, no message, no demand, only silence. The silence of a predator, the silence of inevitability. In homes across the stars, families huddled together. Children asked what the humans wanted. Parents had no answer. Priests whispered prayers, inventing new gods to explain the shadow moving through the dark. But no answer came, only silence, only fear. The day the fleet was destroyed, the galaxy realized the truth. Humanity did not need allies. It did not need threats. It did not need war. It only needed silence, and silence was enough to break them. The wreckage of the great fleet drifted in silence, pieces of metal spinning slowly, bodies frozen in the void, broken ships glowing faintly as fires died away. The galaxy had thrown everything it had at the human dreadnought and failed. More than 500 ships erased in minutes. The survivors scattered, limping back to their worlds, whispering the same truth: the humans cannot be stopped. Across the stars, entire civilizations fell into despair. Governments locked down their cities. Priests filled temples with frightened worshippers. Children cried in the dark, asking if the humans were coming to their world. No one had answers. Fear had become the only law. The dreadnought moved on past the ruins of the fleet, its engines steady, its course unchanging. It did not celebrate. It did not chase it, did not destroy anything beyond what stood in its path, and that silence was worse than any roar. It was a silence that said the humans did not care for victory because they had already won. Weeks passed as the ship crossed into another. Sector stations shut down their lights. Entire planets stopped transmitting signals, hoping the dreadnought would pass them by. Fleets refused to leave their docks, terrified to repeat the fate of the Valari, the Krill, and the Grand Coalition it was. As if the galaxy itself had gone into hiding, holding its breath, waiting for the shadow to pass. Then one night, without warning, the silence broke. Across every system, every planet, every ship, a signal arrived. It bypassed every defense, every firewall, every filter. It appeared on every screen, in every language, spoken in every voice, understood even by those who had never heard of Earth before. It was not an invasion of weapons, but of words. The galaxy froze and listened. The image was simple. A dark background, a single figure standing tall, clad in the uniform of Earth behind the figure. The outline of the dreadnought loomed silent and endless. The figure spoke calm, steady, without hate, but without kindness. "We are humanity," the voice said. "We did not come here to conquer. We did not come here to kneel. We came here because we must survive. For too long, we feared the galaxy. We feared what might come from the stars to take what is ours. So we built this ship to prove one thing: we will not be in prey." The words echoed through every home, every chamber, every mind. The figure's eyes were sharp, not cruel, but filled with certainty. "You attacked us. We did not strike first. You threatened us. We did not answer with words. You fired on us, and we defended ourselves. And now you see the truth. We are not weak. We are not broken. We are not yours to command." Across the stars, rulers sat, frozen. Admirals clenched their fists. Priests bowed their heads. The words cut deep because they were true. It had been the galaxy that fired first. It had been the galaxy that tried to erase humanity before it could grow. The figure continued, "We will not seek war, but we will not run. If you strike us again, we will strike back harder. If you come for our worlds, we will burn yours. If you try to erase us, we will erase you. This is our message. Leave us in peace, and you will know peace. Challenge us, and you will know fear." The signal ended. The screens went dark. Silence returned, but it was a different silence this time. It was not empty. It was heavy, filled with the weight of choice. On the Valari homeworld, the council sat pale and trembling. Their fleets shattered, their pride gone. They argued in whispers, but none dared to suggest another attack they had seen. What resistance brought on the Threx dominion? Generals pounded their tables, demanding vengeance, but even their voices shook, and no soldier volunteered to face the dreadnought again. In the Krill ascendancy, the survivors wept in shame. They had been erased almost completely, entire families left with nothing, and their rulers swore they would never risk such destruction again. But not all voices were quiet. In some systems, the message ignited rage. Young leaders shouted that humanity was arrogant, that they must be destroyed before they grew stronger. Whispers spread of building new weapons, darker weapons, banned for millennia. Planet killers, star forges, living plagues. If humanity could build a dreadnought, perhaps the galaxy could build something. Worse desperation drove them closer to madness. Yet for the common people across the stars, the message was different for them. It was not arrogance, but warning. They had seen their rulers send fleets, and they had watched those fleets burn. They had heard their leaders promise safety, and they had seen only death to many. The humans were not conquerors, but defenders, creatures who only struck when attacked. Voices rose among the lower classes saying, "Leave the humans alone. Let them be. If they want only peace, why not give it?" The galaxy was dividing, some swearing vengeance, others begging for peace. Cracks spread across coalitions. Allies turned to enemies. Systems broke away from their empires. Chaos rippled outward faster than any fleet could move. Meanwhile, the dreadnought continued its course. Calm, steady engines burning, no faster, no slower, as if the broadcast had been enough. The ship needed no more words. Its silence was its greatest weapon, and now the galaxy knew what it meant. Aboard the dreadnought, the crew sat in silence after the message had been sent. No cheers, no celebration. Their orders were simple: deliver the warning and move forward. Humanity did not want to rule the stars. Humanity wanted only to survive, but survival demanded fear, and fear was now their shield. One officer looked at the stars and whispered, "They will hate us forever." Another answered, "Or they will fear us forever." Perhaps that is the same thing. Neither spoke again. The signal replayed in every corner. Of the galaxy, pirates heard it, smugglers heard it. Farmers on distant worlds heard it, and each drew their own conclusion. Some said humanity was a monster, others said humanity was a guardian, but all agreed humanity could no longer be ignored. The temples of the Vec priests rewrote their scriptures, declaring the humans were the chosen scourge, sent by the stars to punish the arrogant. In the academies of the Olan scholars declared humanity the new power of the galaxy and warned their rulers to adapt or perish in the dark halls of the shadow markets. Traders whispered of opportunities, selling weapons, selling secrets, selling fear itself. Fear had become the most valuable resource, and humanity had become its supplier. The Council of Worlds met again, their voices more desperate than before. Some demanded surrender, formal treaties of peace with Earth. Others swore to unite and build weapons that could rival the dreadnought. No agreement was reached. The Council ended in shouts, and threats alliances cracked once more, and the galaxy moved closer to chaos. And still the dreadnought moved. Children looked at the stars and whispered of the ship that could not be stopped. Parents looked at their leaders and whispered of lies. Governments looked at each other and whispered of betrayal, and through it all, the shadow of humanity grew larger, heavier, darker. The message had been clear. The humans would not kneel. The humans would not run. The humans would not forgive. And now every world, every empire, every race had to decide, would they leave humanity alone, or would they challenge them again and face the fear that waited in the dark? The warship burned forward, its engines steady, its weapons silent. The galaxy trembled around it, and somewhere deep in the silence, a truth grew clear. This was not the end. This was only the beginning. The galaxy was quiet, but the quiet was not peace. It was the silence of fear after the message of humanity spread across every star system. Many rulers bowed their heads and told their people to remain still. They said, "Do not provoke the humans. Do not attack. Do not draw their eyes." The dreadnought kept moving through space, calm, steady, untouchable, and most of the galaxy trembled and let it pass. But fear does not always bring caution. In some hearts, it brings rage. In some, it brings desperation. And in the dark halls of one empire, a plot was born. The Zir Dominion was an old power, not as large as the Valari or the Threx, but proud and ruthless. They had ruled their sector with an iron hand for thousands of years. Their fleets burned colonies, their armies crushed revolts. Their people lived under the whip of fear, and now they themselves were afraid of humanity. The rulers of Zir could not accept it. They could not stand that one ship had made their entire empire bend. Their pride was greater than their caution. The High Regent of Zir gathered his generals and whispered the plan. While the galaxy waited in silence, they would strike in secret. They had no wish to unite with the other empires. They would take glory for themselves. They would be the ones remembered as the killers of humanity. For years, Xur scientists had worked in shadows, building weapons forbidden by treaties. They had forged a spear of pure energy, a device designed to pierce even the heart of a star, they called it. The Harrower. It had never been tested. It was too dangerous, too unstable, but now they chose to use it. The Harrower would be hidden on a stealth platform, drifting in an asteroid field. The dreadnought would pass. The trap would be sprung and humanity would fall. The Xur generals argued. Some said the Harrower would not be enough. Others said to use their full fleet, but the regent silenced them. We cannot risk open battle. He said the galaxy must not know it was us. We will strike from the shadows and let the wreckage speak for itself. Humanity will be broken, and the galaxy will see Xur is stronger. So the trap was set in the Calith Belt, a place of rocks and drifting ice. The Harrower was hidden deep inside an asteroid cloaked with layers of shielding. The Xur fleet waited in silence, engines cold, weapons primed. The dreadnought would never see it coming. Days passed. Then the signal came. The human warship was entering the belt. Its engines glowed steady, its hull dark as shadow. It drifted into the maze of rocks without fear. The Xur crews held their breath as the giant passed overhead, larger than any asteroid, its weapons silent, its path straight. Then the order was given: fire the Harrower. The belt lit with unnatural light. The spear of energy tore through the dark, brighter than a sun. Faster than thought, it struck the dreadnought head on a roar of power. Shook every sensor, screens flared white. Xur crews cheered, certain of their victory. For the first time, the human ship shuddered. Its black hull glowed with heat. Cracks of light appeared along its sides. The dreadnought staggered as if wounded. The impossible had happened. The monster had bled. The Xur fleet erupted in celebration, but their joy was short. The dreadnought slowed, but did not fall. It turned its vast shape, twisting through the belt. Its weapons awakened. Beams of darkness lanced outward, slicing asteroids into dust, tearing through Xur ships in seconds. Panic filled the fleet. Captains screamed to retreat, but the dreadnought was faster, precise, relentless. The Harrower was fired again, but the second strike faltered. The weapon, unstable, broke apart in its own power and destroyed the platform holding it. The Xur's great hope exploded in silence. The shockwave, scattering ships across the belt. The dreadnought pressed forward, engines burning brighter than before. Its guns tore through the survivors one by one. No mercy, no hesitation. The Xur commanders realized their pride had doomed them. The regent screamed for escape, but his own flagship was cut in half, a beam slicing it like paper in the void. Within minutes, the fleet was gone. The trap erased the empire, broken. But the galaxy did not stay silent. This time the dreadnought spoke again across every world. The same signal returned. Screens lit up homes, temples, palaces, every being heard the voice of humanity. You have struck us again, the voice said. We warned you. We told you what would happen if you challenged us, and now you see it. We do not seek war, but we will not forgive betrayal. You send secret weapons against us. You hide in shadows. You call us monsters, but it is you who strike first, always first. The image of the dreadnought burned behind the figure, speaking, its hull glowing faintly. Where the Harrower had struck, scars etched across its armor, but still whole, still alive. We will not chase you. We will not hunt every world. We will not burn the innocent. But know this: if you betray us again, if you send another weapon, we will not stop at your fleet. We will not stop at your armies. We will burn your empires until nothing remains. The message ended. The silence returned, and the galaxy shook. The Xur dominion was shattered, its fleets broken, its regent dead, its people weeping. In terror, entire systems rose in revolt against them, blaming their leaders for bringing human wrath upon them. The Dominion fell apart in days, a power that had lasted millennia, broken by its own arrogance. Across other empires, fear grew sharper. Some rulers trembled, whispering that if Xur could fall so easily, none were safe. Others clenched their fists, vowing they would never bow. They swore humanity must be destroyed before it was too late, but none dared act the image of the dreadnought. Scarred but still alive, haunted them. In hidden corners rumors spread. Some said the Harrower had worked, that the dreadnought had been wounded. Some said humanity was not invincible, only dangerous, and dangerous things could still die whispers of. Rebellion stirred among those who refused to accept fear as their master, and in those whispers, betrayal began to grow again. The dreadnought moved on its engines steady, but its crew silent. The blow of the Harrower had shaken them. Though the ship had survived, they now knew the galaxy would never stop trying to kill them. Humanity had shown its strength, but also its weakness, and in that weakness the galaxy would find hope. One officer whispered in the silence, "They will come again," another answered, "They always do." The captain said, "Then we will always be ready," and the crew returned to their stations. The warship continued its path deeper into the galaxy, through fields of stars and systems that fell silent as it passed. Behind it lay wreckage, fleets, broken empires shattered, and ahead of it stretched the unknown, vast, endless waiting. The galaxy now lived between two truths. Humanity could not be stopped, but humanity was not invincible, and in that space between fear and hope, betrayal would always be born again. The dreadnought moved through the dark, its engines steady, its scarred hull glowing faintly where the Harrower had struck the galaxy, watched in silence. Every world, every empire, every ruler. They whispered the same thought. The humans had survived again. The Xur dominion was gone, erased in days, and yet the dreadnought remained the shadow that no one could banish. But the wound had changed something inside the humans. It was not victory. They felt it was anger, cold, quiet. Heavy, the galaxy had not listened to their warning. It had betrayed them again, and humanity decided the next betrayal would not be forgiven. This time, the lesson would be louder. This time, the galaxy would tremble. In the command chamber, the captain stood silent, his eyes on the endless stars. The crew worked without words, their faces hard, their voices low. Every one of them knew what was coming. The Xur had fired first, but the answer would not end with Xur. It would fall on all who dared whisper. Against humanity, the dreadnought was no longer just a shield. It was about to become a Hammerscout's reported whispers from dozens of empires, secret meetings, plans for new weapons, alliances forged in shadows. Leaders spoke of striking together to finally end humanity. The captain listened to the reports and gave only one order: no more waiting. The dreadnought changed course, its massive bulk turning like a predator following a scent. Its engines burned brighter. Its weapons came alive. For the first time since it left Earth, the warship was hunting. The first strike fell on the Xur loyalists, who still clung to their crumbling empire. Their fleets were shattered in orbit, their stations cut apart piece by piece. The dreadnought's guns carved through their defenses like smoke. No survivors were left to carry their banners, only wreckage spinning silently in the void. The lesson was clear, but the dreadnought did not stop. It moved on to the Threx dominion, where generals had been whispering of revenge. Their fleets were vast but slow and unready. The dreadnought fell upon them in the dark, tearing through their border stations before their command could even respond. Entire armadas burned in seconds. The humans gave no warning. No signal, only fire. The Threx screamed across the stars, but no one came to their aid. Fear had made every empire silent. Then came the Valari, proud rulers who had once claimed the galaxy belonged to them. They gathered every ship they could call. Every captain, every soldier, their fleet stretched across the horizon of their world. More than 1,000 warships strong, the Valari believed numbers would save them. They believed unity would break the humans. The dreadnought arrived, and the Valari fired first their beams, and torpedoes lit the void. Brighter than suns their weapons struck. Over and over, but the dreadnought did not fall. Its shields burned, its hull shook, but it endured, and then it answered. The night turned to fire. The dreadnought's cannons split open the Valari lines. Ships cracked and burned the sky above there. Homeworld filled with falling wreckage. The humans pressed forward with no pause, no hesitation. The Valari fleet died in waves. The survivors tried to flee, but the dreadnought chased them down, hunting them one by one until only silence remained on. The Valari homeworld billions watched from the ground as their fleet burned above them. They wept, they screamed, they prayed, but no answer came, only the shadow of the dreadnought passing overhead, a reminder that nothing could protect them, not their numbers, not their pride. The galaxy shook with terror. Rulers who once whispered of defiance now fell silent. Whole systems abandoned their leaders, choosing instead to flee into the dark, hoping to hide from humanity. Colonies were left empty, fleets were scattered, chaos spread like fire, but still some whispered of hope. They saw the scars on the dreadnought. They remembered the harrower. They said humanity was strong but not unbreakable. They said if they built greater weapons, if they joined together, perhaps they could win. And in hidden places, secret projects began, monstrous weapons, worse than the harrower, dark engines, forbidden by law, built in silence. Humanity knew this. The captain knew this. Every strike they made was not only punishment, but a warning. Every empire that fell was a message. The dreadnought did not speak. This time, it only destroyed. Its silence was louder than any broadcast. The galaxy knew what it meant. If you move against us, you will burn. Inside the dreadnought, the crew worked without rest, their eyes hollow, their voices tired. Victory brought no joy, only more weight. They saw the bodies of enemy ships drifting through space. They heard the silence of destroyed fleets, and some began to whisper among themselves. How long could this last? How long before the galaxy grew desperate enough to unleash something even worse than the harrower? Some wondered if humanity had already gone too far, if they had become the monster. The galaxy feared. But the captain silenced. The doubts with a single truth: if we stop, they will come again. If we weaken, they will strike. If we forgive, they will betray. Only fear keeps us alive. And so the dreadnought pressed on. World after world burned. Fleets shattered, governments collapsed. The galaxy's balance broke. Entire sectors fell into anarchy. Pirates rose, empires fractured, civil wars erupted. The shadow of humanity reached everywhere without ruling, without conquering it, ruled through fear alone. On one distant world, a child looked up at the stars and asked her mother, "Is it true? Are the humans monsters?" The mother shook her head. "No, they are not monsters. They are survivors." But the child whispered, "Then why are we afraid?" And the mother had no answer. The dreadnought moved deeper into the galaxy, and with every step the tension grew. The empires knew they could not fight alone. They knew unity was their only hope. And so in secret meetings across the stars, enemies became allies, rivals became friends. A great alliance was being born in silence, forged not by trust but by terror, its only goal to destroy the dreadnought, no matter the cost. The humans knew it. They could feel the weight of the galaxy turning against them. The captain stood in the silence of the command chamber and whispered, "Let them come. We will show them what fear truly means." And so the stage was set. The dreadnought still moving, the galaxy trembling between fear and rebellion, the humans ready, the empires desperate, all waiting for the clash that would decide everything. The warship burned forward, silent, heavy, endless. The stars ahead darker than ever. And the galaxy wondered, would it survive what was coming next? The stars were restless. The galaxy held its breath, as if waiting for the final storm. Whispers traveled faster than light, stories of fleets destroyed, of worlds silenced, of empires erased. Every being across every system knew the same truth. Humanity would not stop. The dreadnought kept moving its path, clear its shadow. Long its silence, louder than any threat. But the empires were not ready to die. Rulers who once hated one another now met in secret halls. Leaders who once fought endless wars now sat at the same table. Fear was stronger than pride. Fear was stronger than hate, and in that fear, the galaxy forged something new. An alliance of survival. Velari survivors brought their knowledge. Threx warlords gave their fleets. The last remnants of Xur offered forbidden weapons. Even smaller powers, who had always hidden in shadows, stepped forward, because they knew if humanity was not stopped, none would live long enough to rule anything. The galaxy had no choice. It had to stand together. They called it the Covenant of the Stars. It was not built on trust, it was built on desperation. No one believed the others would remain loyal after victory, but they did not care. They only cared about one goal: destroy the dreadnought. In hidden factories across the stars, great weapons were forged, ships larger than ever built before, engines, stronger shields, brighter cannons, heavier whole planets turned into war forges. Armies were raised not to conquer worlds, but to survive against one enemy. Scientists tore open laws of physics, inventing weapons that should never exist, beams designed to rip space apart, warheads that could burn a star. Every empire gave everything they had, because they knew if they held anything back, it would not matter. Humanity would erase them. The dreadnought knew something was coming. Its sensors caught strange signals, fleets moving where no fleets should move, stations building. In silence, trade routes closed. The captain stood in the command chamber and said, "They gather like wolves, but wolves can still be broken." The crew nodded, but in their eyes there was something else, not only determination, but fear. Than 1,000 warships strong, the Velari believed numbers would save them. They believed unity would break the humans. The dreadnought arrived, and the Velari fired first. Their beams and torpedoes lit the void brighter than suns. Their weapons struck over and over, but the dreadnought did not fall. Its shields burned, its hull shook, but it endured, and then it answered. The night turned to fire. The dreadnought's cannons split open. The Velari lines, ships cracked and burned the sky above their homeworld, filled with falling wreckage. The humans pressed forward with no pause, no hesitation. The Velari fleet died in waves. The survivors tried to flee, but the dreadnought chased them down, hunting them one by one, until only silence remained on. The Velari homeworld billions watched from the ground as their fleet burned above them. They wept, they screamed, they prayed. But no answer came, only the shadow of the dreadnought passing overhead, a reminder that nothing could protect them. Not there. Numbers not their pride. The galaxy shook with terror. Rulers who once whispered of defiance now fell silent. Whole systems abandoned their leaders, choosing instead to flee into the dark, hoping to hide from humanity. Colonies were left empty, fleets were scattered, chaos spread like fire. But still some whispered of hope. They saw the scars on the dreadnought. They remembered the harrower. They said humanity was strong but not unbreakable. They said if they built greater weapons, if they joined together, perhaps they could win. And in hidden places, secret projects began, monstrous weapons, worse than the harrower, dark engines forbidden by law, built in silence. Humanity knew this. The captain knew this. Every strike they made was not only punishment, but a warning. Every empire that fell was a message the dreadnought did not speak this time. It only destroyed. Its silence was louder than any broadcast. The galaxy knew what it meant. If you move against us, you will burn. Inside the dreadnought, the crew worked without rest, their eyes hollow, their voices tired. Victory brought no joy, only more weight. They saw the bodies of enemy ships drifting through space. They heard the silence of destroyed fleets, and some began to whisper among themselves. How long could this last? How long before the galaxy grew desperate enough to unleash something even worse than the harrower? Some wondered if humanity had already gone too far, if they had become the monster the galaxy feared. But the captain silenced Those doubts with a single truth. If we stop, they will come again. If we weaken, they will strike. If we forgive, they will betray. Only fear keeps us alive. And so the dreadnought pressed on. World after world burned, fleets shattered, governments collapsed. The galaxy's balance broke, entire sectors fell into anarchy, pirates rose, empires, fractured civil wars erupted. The shadow of humanity reached everywhere without ruling, without conquering it, ruled through fear alone. On one distant world, a child looked up at the stars and asked her mother, "Is it true? Are the humans monsters?" The mother shook her head. "No, they are not monsters. They are survivors." But the child whispered, "Then why are we afraid?" And the mother had no answer. The dreadnought moved deeper into the galaxy, and with every step the tension grew. The empires knew they could not fight alone. They knew unity was their only hope, and so, in secret meetings across the stars, enemies became allies, rivals became friends. A great alliance was being born in silence, forged not by trust, but by terror, its only goal to destroy the dreadnought no matter the cost. The humans knew it. They could feel the weight of the galaxy turning against them. The captain stood in the silence of the command chamber and whispered, "Let them come, we will show them what fear truly means." And so the stage was set. The dreadnought still moving, the galaxy trembling between fear and rebellion. The humans ready, the empires desperate, all waiting for the clash that would decide everything. The warship burned forward, silent, heavy, endless, the stars ahead darker than ever, and the galaxy wondered, would it survive what was coming next? The stars were restless. The galaxy held its breath, as if waiting for the final storm. Whispers traveled faster than light, stories of fleets destroyed, of worlds silenced, of empires erased. Every being across every system knew the same truth. Humanity would not stop. The dreadnought kept moving, its path clear, its shadow long, its silence louder than any threat. But the empires were not ready to die. Rulers who once hated one another now met in secret halls. Leaders who once fought endless wars now sat at the same table. Fear was stronger than pride. Fear was stronger than hate. And in that fear, the galaxy forged something new, an alliance of survival. Valari survivors brought their knowledge. Threx warlords gave their fleets the last remnants of Zur, offered forbidden weapons. Even smaller powers who had always hidden in shadows stepped forward, because they knew if humanity was not stopped, none would live long enough to rule anything. The galaxy had no choice. It had to stand together. They called it the Covenant of the Stars. It was not built on trust. It was built on desperation. No one believed the others would remain loyal after victory, but they did not care. They only cared about one goal: destroy the dreadnought in hidden factories across the stars. Great weapons were forged, ships larger than ever built before, engines, stronger shields, brighter cannons, heavier whole planets turned into warforges. Armies were raised not to conquer worlds, but to survive against one enemy. Scientists tore open laws of physics, inventing weapons that should never exist. Beams designed to rip space apart, warheads that could burn a star. Every empire gave everything they had, because they knew if they held anything back, it would not matter. Humanity would erase them. The dreadnought knew something was coming. Its sensors caught strange signals. Fleets moving where no fleets should move, stations building in silence, trade routes closed. The captain stood in the command chamber and said, "They gather like wolves, but wolves can still be broken." The crew nodded. But in their eyes there was something else, not only determination but fear. The dreadnought had survived everything, but it had never faced all the galaxy at once, never faced billions united against one ship, yet it kept moving straight into the trap. The battle began in the dead system of Orvan, a place with no suns, no life, only cold, dark emptiness. It was here the Covenant waited, thousands of ships forming a wall across the void. Dreadnoughts, cruisers, carriers, swarms of fighters there. Numbers stretched beyond sight, a sea of light and steel. The dreadnought arrived alone, silent, steady, massive, its scarred hull, black against the void. It did not slow, it did not turn. It faced the wall of ships as if it were only missed the Covenant. Opened fire, first beams lanced out brighter than stars. Missiles screamed forward, waves of fighters swarmed like insects. The void lit up as if a sun had been born. The dreadnought disappeared inside the storm. For a moment, the galaxy believed it. Was over. The Covenant cheered, thinking the monster was gone. But then the storm broke, and the dreadnought emerged, still burning, still alive. Its shields cracked, its hull scarred deeper than before, but its guns roared to life. The void turned into fire. The dreadnought's cannons cut through fleets in lines. Ships broke apart by the dozens. Fighters erased in waves. Beams of darkness swept across the battlefield, turning thousands into nothing. The Covenant screamed but did not retreat. Their orders were clear: no fear, no escape, hold the line. Until the monster fell, hours passed, the battle raged. The dreadnought destroyed hundreds, but the Covenant still pressed on. For every ship that burned, 10 more closed in. They circled it from every side. They threw everything they had: missiles, beams, blades of energy, forbidden weapons that split the void. The dreadnought bled metal fire, silence, but it fought on. Inside the ship, alarms screamed, walls shook, sparks fell from broken panels. The crew fought to keep systems alive. Shields flickered, guns, overheated engines burned still. The captain stood unshaken, his voice steady. Keep firing, we do not stop until they are gone. The crew obeyed, even as exhaustion burned their bodies. The Covenant unleashed their final weapon, a colossal device forged from the remains of Zir science and Velari power. They called it the Eclipse, a sphere of pure energy that consumed everything within it. They hurled it at the dreadnought, a weapon meant to end stars themselves. The void, bent, light-twisted space screamed. The dreadnought was caught inside the sphere. Its hull burned, its shields collapsed. The crew cried out as systems died. Alarms turned to silence. For the first time, the dreadnought faltered. Across the fleets, the Covenant roared in triumph. They had done it. The monster was trapped. It was ending. But then the silence broke. The dreadnought's engines blazed brighter than ever. Its cannons screamed with fury. The ship tore free from the sphere, ripping through it with raw power. Its hull melted, its armor cracked, but it lived, and it struck back with everything it had. One last storm of fire, darkness, beams of destruction that ripped apart the heart of the Covenant fleet. Flagships shattered. Commanders burned, stations broke, fighters scattered, the void filled with wreckage. Billions of voices cried out in terror, and silence fell again. The Covenant was broken, the alliance shattered. The dreadnought drifted, scarred, bleeding, but alive, its engines dim, its weapons silent. The crew exhausted, their ship a ruin, but still moving. Across the galaxy, the message was clear. Humanity could not be destroyed, not by one empire, not by all of them. Together, the dreadnought had survived the greatest storm in history, and now the stars were quiet again. But in that silence, questions grew. The dreadnought had not won without cost. It was wounded deeper than ever, its hull torn, its crew broken. It could not fight forever. The galaxy knew this, and in hidden places, whispers returned, not of unity, but of waiting. They said the monster was not invincible. They said time would finish what fleets could not. The dreadnought moved on, its shadow still vast, its silence still heavy, but inside its crew sat in the dark, some proud, some afraid, some wondering how long they could carry the weight of fear alone. The galaxy trembled in fear, but it also trembled in hope, because though humanity had won, the war was not over. The story was not finished. The stars still waited, and in that waiting, the future was being written by both fear and defiance. The dreadnought sailed into the endless dark, scarred but unbroken its engines, carrying it deeper into the unknown, and behind it the galaxy watched and wondered, would humanity be the savior of the stars or the doom of them all? Do you want me to expand? This finale further into an extended aftermath, showing how different empires react politically and culturally to the Dreadnought's survival to give your series a strong closing hook for possible sequels.